Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, GM Potter here. Welcome to my channel where I discuss books and bookish things. And I thought it would be fun, since we're closing in at the end of the year, to discuss my writing, where I've been this year and where I want to go next year. So, let's get into it. So this year, as you may or may not know, I self-published 2 books, Super and Letters I'll Never Send, which is a short fiction and prose collection, Super being a novel. And I finished 3 drafts. 2 of them I still want to get some work done on them, but one of them is ready to be sent off to my beta reader. I'm using a different beta reader because the working title is The Science of Limerence, is a little different from what I've been writing. I mean, no 2 of my books have been the same, so there is that. I don't write to a specific genre, but this one's definitely more of a love story, so. And then the other 2, I still want to do some tweaking, want to do some working. I've got some plot holes I need to stitch up, things like that, so. But I do have something kind of cool, which I do have the first book I ever wrote, which is The Poor Farmer, covering up my name because that's my maiden name and that's a security question and all that jazz. But I told this story to my mom back on June 29th, 1992, and my mom wrote it down for me and did illustrations. And it's just a little story, and it's I've read it and reread it. It's very meta, and especially for a 4-year-old. But I've been writing stories ever since. I've been coming up with my own stories. Like, a lot of the kids I went to school with would parrot when it was time to do short stories. They would parrot things that they'd seen on TV that maybe, like, and maybe change a couple of the names here and there, but it was very clearly, it was like a Gargoyles episode, which is funny because Gargoyles in and of itself is mostly the Arthurian legends. But I wanted to write my own stories and come up with my own ideas and do my own thing, and that's always been something about me, is that I've always liked crafting stories. I start with a character, usually, in a scene. Like, I imagine a particular character in a particular scene, and I go from there, and I build the story around a scene, or around an idea, or around what would it take to make a character whose core beliefs are X do Y, or something like that. My stories tend to be very character-driven rather than plot-driven, which is the kind of stories I prefer to read, honestly. So, my goals for 2025, I can't talk today. My goals for 2025 are to publish at least 1 book, probably The Science of Limerence. I want to get out there. I might do Vivienne and the Vampire Cabal also. We'll see how that one's shaping up. The third one that I've been working on this year, I don't think I'll have ready in time to get out next year. But I'd really like to get at least 1 novel published this coming year, and preferably 2, but I definitely want to get at least 1 out. What I'd really like to do is read more books on writing. Like, I have on my bookshelf over here, right under my Lord of the Rings and my Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre and Arthurian legends, I have my shelf of my writing books, and I've read most of them. And most of them I haven't read cover to cover. They're not necessarily meant to be read that way. But I would like to read them more in depth and get more ideas and learn more about crafting stories. Because I think I'm pretty good, but I know I could be better. And that's the thing about art, is you should always be honing it and working on it and crafting it and making yourself better. Like, no one steps forward and is just brilliant. Like, even Stephen King wasn't Stephen King until about his third book. Like, yeah, I definitely want to do that. I want to do, what I'd really like to do is to have a booth at like a fan expo or something like that and sell my books. That's something I would have to save up for because that does cost money. But that is something I would like to do, is have a booth and sell my books and do things that way. Like, I think that would be really fun. I need to work on my self-confidence and my elevator pitch and things like that first. And then, of course, I'd have to select the books that I think it would sell to that market most, and like, it's like a whole thing. But that's something probably not 2025. That's probably like a 2027 goal. Already coming up with goals for 2 years from now. But I think what I really want to do is work on pushing myself and writing the stories that I want to hear, because that's how I got into writing essentially when I was a little kid. Is I had ideas for stories and I'd never heard them before. That they just came from me, and so that was like its own special kind of magic. Anytime I hold one of my books in my hands, like anytime I get my author copies, I'm like excited and jazzed, and just, it's like holding magic in your hands, like a little bit of magic in the real world. So those are my goals for the coming year. What are your goals? I'd love to hear them. For your art, whatever art you do, whether that's sewing or crocheting or knitting or painting or writing or any creative outlet. Do you have a creative outlet? I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and tell me down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.